everybody. Welcome to SDVoE Presents Face-to-Face AV with Justin Kennington. That's me, your host, Justin Kennington. I'm joined today by David Stevens of Niveo Systems. He's their Director of Sales for the Americas. David, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Now,
appreciate it.
As we were just chatting, you were bringing up some old war stories. You've been in telecom, I think, for a long time. You invented the internet. Is that what you said? No.
We sold the first internet.
No, but tell me a little bit about your history in the long view.
In the long view. Long view, working for a small company named AT&T back in the old days of building out data networks. That's part of what my team did. From there, I've worked in the AV world and distribution, manufacturers, and now running Niveo for the Americas here.
Mm-hmm. So now tell us a little bit about Niveo. I know who they are. Let's make sure everyone is on the same page.
We're a company headquartered out of the Netherlands, and we've got a lot of solutions, but our main focus right now is building top-level, enterprise-grade IP over AV over IP networks. So we build the switches that enable that to happen. Okay. There was a lot of grades of switches, a lot of business class switches that the integrators around the world were using that really weren't built for that type of load. So it's like anything electronic. You've got to use the right components for something to last long-term. So we've turned that focus into building enterprise-grade switches, and part of why we came and wanted to join SDVoE was there was a call for copper-based switches in this place to support the Alliance team members and their solutions into that. We already had fiber switches for it, but now we're going to be bringing forth a copper switch for that marketplace.
Okay. And you told me a little bit about the product. This is a single SKU, 24-port switch with some big uplinks, right?
Yep. So 24-port switch, 100 gig uplinks into it, so we can do some link aggregation and make it a larger switch fabric into that. We're also bringing PoE Plus, which has not been normal in that switch space, which actually helps a lot of the integrators not having to put, injectors into the system in there. It's another failure point into it. So these switches will also, to add a component to it, are configured in the box, ready to go.
Okay.
So basically for the integrator, power it up, make sure it's the latest firmware on it, start plugging their gear in, do the test, and move forward.
You talked about enterprise-grade switches and components lasting and things like that. It sounds to me like there's a reliability point that you want to make. Is that right, or is there something?
Absolutely, there is. So we moved with our managed switches in the gig space to 10-year warranties. We just don't have failures. Mm-hmm. So when you get into the enterprise space, you should actually have a switch that will enable your fabric, your network, to run, and it just runs forever. It just goes.
Yeah.
That should be invisible.
This is infrastructure. I don't want to think about it.
No, and you shouldn't have to touch it. The only reason to change out a switch should be that you're going to change speeds.
Yeah, okay.
So you will move from a 1 gig to a solution supporting the Alliance with 10 gig. That should be really what you do. The switch should go in and just work.
Yeah.
In and out. There's a lot of the manufacturers that have a pretty wide array of what I'll call business class, really resi class, business class, and enterprise. And we're focused on the enterprise with this product set into it.
Yeah.
We do manufacture some what I'll call business class switches that helps with smaller solutions, but it's not built to these standards that you have if you want to switch to work for decades.
Sure, that makes sense, and of course that's a reliability point, but what I also hear in there is a sustainability point, right?
Right.
There's nothing less sustainable than swapping out my switch every 2 years because it fails, right? That's more equipment, that's more time, that's more effort.
Well, if you think about the history of AV, that was kind of the normal thing. People would be switching out whatever network they were using every 3 to 5 years because it was a new sell to the client. But we need to mature into really the true IP space, which is building fabrics that just last.
Yes.
And all you need to do to change what's happening in that visual or auditory environment is change some endpoints potentially.
Right.
If a customer is wanting to take advantage of HDR in a different way, or really get into a pixel level on a screen or something, that's where the integrator space should be. The fabric should just work.
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great way to see it. Right, it's breaking apart, the infrastructure component, whose job is to move data.
Yes.
I don't care what the data is, or how it got here, or what kind of data.
Right.
And it's the edge devices, the peripherals, the services that bring value to the network, and that can change every year, every month, whatever you need.
Well, and if you think about it, that enables one of the disciplines that AV is learning. Coming from my past life of running large networks with AT&T, it was the value services is what was special to us in that world.
Yeah.
AV is learning that there's so much value in providing the services after the install. So if you build the fabric right, that's when you start creating that bond with your client that lasts forever. Because they'll just come to you going, I'd like to do something else different.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Talk to me about, here in SDVoE land, we like to talk about sustainable, flexible, and available. We've touched on sustainable. Flexible, you told me, you heard the market demand for copper, so you've had fiber, you've added copper to your portfolio.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about availability. We hear horror stories from certain manufacturers in AV that quote months-long or a year-long lead times. I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't ask this before, but what's it like to order a product from Niveo today?
So we use distributors around the world. They actually are maintaining stock. I don't have stock issues. I can manufacture. We're one of the few companies that does a total manufacture job in Taiwan or in Germany, according to which switch solution that we're looking at.
Okay.
And in that world, we control all the components. I'm not having supply issues on components. We've also, in that world, ensured that everything is TAA and NDAA compliant, which is going to become larger as you go into a larger switch fabric.
Yep.
That's a lot of back doors that we're avoiding for clients security-wise into it. So making the switches and having them delivered will be great. We should have these actually in stock in the United States early first quarter, matter of fact.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. Nobody gets paid until the product gets delivered, so it's nice to have manufacturers in our ecosystem that are delivering.
Absolutely. And that's going to be to me part of the magic there is making sure it's available, number one, and then my customer support team is tops. They do really a good job. And we focus them on just taking care of the customer, solve the problem, regardless of what gear's on the ends, which is usually the problem. And so I just said, listen, this is what you're going to do. You're going to own it to get it right with the integrator. Because that's how we build clients.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, David, thank you so much for joining us. It was a lot of fun chatting. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss a face-to-face. And thank you for watching Face-to-Face AV.